Jake Morrison sat in the cold metal chair and looked around the huge meeting room. The walls were made of some kind of blue crystal that glowed softly. 12 different alien species had their representatives here, and none of them looked happy to see him. The Zeltharian delegate looked like a walking tree made of glass. Its branches moved as it spoke in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. "The human proposal is not worth our time," it said. "Your species lacks the brain power to help us with real problems." Jake kept his face calm, but his hands tightened into fists under the table. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 3 years. 3 long years of being treated like a child who wandered into a room full of adults. The Vorthak representative was next to speak. It looked like a giant snake with 6 arms and yellow eyes that never blinked. "Humans are good for cleaning up after battles," it hissed. "Nothing more. Your weapons are toys, your ships are slow, your minds are simple." Jake had heard this before, many times. The aliens saw humans as the janitors of space. Good enough to fix broken things and carry heavy boxes, but not smart enough to sit at the big table when important decisions were made. The insectoid Crix delegate made clicking sounds that Jake's translator turned into words. "The void swarm grows stronger every day. It has eaten 3 star systems on the galaxy's edge. We need real solutions, not human guesswork." Jake stood up slowly. He had prepared for this moment for weeks. In his hands was a data pad with humanity's research on the void swarm, 3 years of work by Earth's best scientists, detailed plans for new defensive systems, maps of safe routes through dangerous space that only human pilots knew. "The void swarm adapts to energy weapons," Jake said. "Our research shows that kinetic weapons work better. Simple bullets and missiles that don't give off the energy signals the swarm feeds on." The Goliath Empire delegate laughed. It stood 12 feet tall and had skin like gray stone. "Primitive weapons for a primitive species. We have plasma cannons that can melt planets. Why would we use your metal rocks?" Jake felt his patience finally break. "Because your plasma cannons don't work. The swarm eats energy. It gets stronger every time you shoot it with your fancy weapons. But you won't listen because the idea came from humans." The room fell silent. No one spoke to council delegates like that, especially not humans. The Etherian representative floated, 3 feet off the ground, its body made of pure light. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music. "Human Morrison, you forget your place. Your species joined the council as junior members. You provide services. You do not make policy." Jake looked around the room one more time. Every alien face showed the same thing: disgust, boredom, the kind of look adults give children who won't stop talking about their toys. "I've been coming to these meetings for 3 years, Jake said. 3 years of bringing you our research, our ideas, our offers to help. 3 years of being told to shut up and do as we're told." The Crix delegate clicked its mandibles. "Because that is your role. Accept it." Jake's translator beeped as it picked up communications from the council's main computer. The voting results were coming in. The motion to assign humanity to waste reclamation duties for the next century had passed. 11 votes in favor, 1 against. Jake's vote didn't count. "Waste reclamation," Jake repeated. "You want us to clean up garbage for 100 years while you ignore every warning we give you about the void swarm." The Vorthak delegate's forked tongue flicked out. "It is honest work. Better than pretending you can contribute to military planning." Jake reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. It looked like a simple communicator, but it was much more. With one press of a button, he could send a message that would reach every human ship, station, and colony in the galaxy. "You know what?" Jake said. "You're right. We don't belong here." He pressed the button. The message was simple. Just 4 words that would change everything. "Come home. It's over." The Zeltharian delegate's branches rustled. "What are you doing? Human?" Jake smiled for the first time in months. "I'm taking your advice. Humanity is withdrawing from the Galactic Council. We're done trying to help people who don't want our help." The Goliath delegate's stone face showed confusion. "You can't. Simply leave. There are contracts, obligations. Read the fine print, Jake said. Any member species can withdraw with 48 hours notice. Consider this your notice. He started walking toward the door. Behind him, the aliens began talking all at once. Their voices mixed together in a noise that sounded like a zoo at feeding time. "Human Morrison," the Etherian called out. "Be reasonable. Where will you go? What will you do?" Jake stopped at the door and turned around. "We'll figure it out. Humans are good at that. We always have been." The Crick's delegates' mandibles clicked rapidly. "This is foolish. You need the Council's protection. The galaxy is dangerous." "Maybe," Jake said. "But at least we won't have to listen to you tell us how stupid we are every day." He walked out of the room and into the corridor. His footsteps echoed off the crystal walls as he made his way to the human embassy. Around the galaxy, his message was being received. Human ships were already changing course. Space stations were powering down. Colonies were packing up. In 48 hours, there would be no humans left in Council space. The aliens would get what they wanted. A galaxy without primitive, stupid humans getting in their way. Jake wondered how long it would take them to realize what they had lost. Captain Lisa Hayes watched the stars through the bridge window of her cargo ship, New Frontier. Around her ship, hundreds of other human vessels moved through space like a slow river of lights. Some were big cargo haulers like hers. Others were small family ships or mining vessels. All of them were going home. "Captain, we're getting messages from the Vorthak station asking when we'll deliver their food shipment," said her first officer, Danny Rodriguez. He looked tired. They all did. The last 2 days had been busy. "Tell them to find someone else," Lisa said. "We're done making deliveries for people who think we're too stupid to breathe." Danny smiled. It was the first time Lisa had seen him smile in weeks. "Already did." Their response was interesting. Lots of angry hissing. On the main screen, Lisa could see other human ships breaking away from the convoy. Some were heading to different star systems to pick up more humans. Others were carrying supplies back to Earth. The largest ships were hauling entire families who had lived on alien worlds for decades. Lisa's communicator buzzed. It was her sister Amy, calling from the mining station at Kepler 442. "Lisa, the Goliath Empire ships are already moving into our docking bays. They think they can just take over." "Let them try," Lisa said. "Did you remember to take the navigation computers?" "Every single one. And the maintenance manuals. And the spare parts. Inventory," Amy laughed. "They're going to have a fun time figuring out how to run a mining operation without any of that." Lisa had been running cargo ships for 15 years. She knew every dangerous route, every shortcut, every safe harbor between Earth and the Rim, worlds. The aliens thought space travel was easy because humans made it look easy. They were about to learn the difference. "Captain Hayes," came a voice over the general communication channel. "This is Admiral Carter from Earth Defense Command. How many ships do you have in your convoy?" Lisa checked her sensors. 412, Admiral. Mix of cargo haulers, passenger ships, and mining vessels. We're bringing home about 50,000 people. "Good work, Captain. Head for Earth space. We have housing and jobs waiting." Lisa had known Ben Carter before he became an admiral. He used to run security for the big shipping companies. Now he was in charge of bringing all the humans home. It was a big job. Humans had spread out across the galaxy over the past century. They had built homes on 1,000 worlds, worked in alien cities, married into alien families, started businesses that spanned dozens of star systems. Now they were all coming home. "Danny, put me on the ship-wide communication system," Lisa said. "You're live, Captain. This is Captain Hayes. I know this is hard for everyone. Leaving the homes you built, the lives you made. But we're not running away. We're making a choice. We're choosing to be with people who value us." Through the ship's corridors, Lisa could hear people talking. Families discussing their new lives on Earth. Workers planning what skills they could teach other humans. Scientists talking about research projects they could start without alien interference. On the bridge, the communication officer, Kelly Park, looked up from her station. "Captain, we're getting some interesting reports from the ships heading to other systems." "What kind of reports?" The Etherian energy grid on Proxima 7 went dark an hour after our maintenance crews left. The Crick's food processing plants on Titan 9 are showing massive failures, and the Vorthak are already asking for help with their cargo routes. Lisa wasn't surprised. Humans had been the backbone of galactic civilization for decades, not because they were forced to be, but because they were good at it. They could fix things that broke. They could find solutions to problems that seemed impossible. They could work with anyone, even aliens who looked down on them. The aliens had seen this as weakness. They thought humans were servants who should be grateful for any scraps thrown their way. They had never understood that humans chose to help, because it was the right thing to do, not because they had to. "Captain," Danny said, "we're getting a priority message from the Galactic Council." Lisa's jaw tightened. "What do they want?" "They're asking all human ships to return to their assigned positions. They say there's been a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding." Lisa shook her head. 3 years of being told we're too stupid. To have opinions was a misunderstanding. There's more. They're offering to increase human representation on the council. 1 full voting member instead of junior status. Lisa looked at the stars ahead. Somewhere out there was Earth, the world humans had left behind to join the galactic community. The world they were now returning to because that community had rejected them. "Tell the council thank you for their generous offer," Lisa said. "But we're busy." "Should I tell them what we're busy with?" "Tell them we're busy being human. They'll figure out what that means soon enough." Over the next few hours, more reports came in. The Goliath Empire had tried to take over human-built mining operations but couldn't figure out how to run them. The Zeltharian homeworld was having problems with their atmospheric processors, machines that humans had quietly maintained for years. Trade routes that human pilots had navigated safely were now seeing ship after ship get lost in cosmic storms. "Captain," Kelly said, "the Etherians are offering to pay triple rates for human pilots to come back." "Too late," Lisa said. "We're going home." Through the bridge windows, Earth's sun was getting brighter. In a few days they would be home. All of them. For the first time in a century, every human in the galaxy would be in the same star system. Lisa wondered what they would build together, what they could accomplish when they didn't have to spend their time proving they deserved respect. She was looking forward to finding out. Dr. Amy Johnson stared at the data streaming across her computer screen in the Luna Base laboratory. The numbers were terrible, but they were also fascinating. The Void Swarm had just consumed the Zeltharian homeworld in less than 3 days. "Ryan, look at this," she called to her research partner, Dr. Ryan Phillips, who was working at the next table. "The swarm didn't just eat the planet. It learned from every weapon the Zeltharians used against it." Ryan walked over and looked at the screen. His face went pale. "Those energy signatures. The swarm is copying Zeltharian crystal technology. It's making itself stronger with every battle." Amy had been studying the Void Swarm for 2 years before humanity left the Galactic Council. She had tried to warn everyone, but the aliens had ignored her research. They said human science was too simple to understand something as complex as the swarm. Now the swarm was proving her right in the worst possible way. "Dr. Johnson," came a voice from the laboratory door. Katie Carter, Admiral Carter's daughter, walked in carrying a data pad. She was one of Earth's best engineers, fresh back from a colony world where she had been designing defense systems. "Katie, what's wrong?" Amy asked. The young woman looked upset. "I just got word from our listening posts. The Crix Collective is under attack. The swarm hit 3 of their industrial worlds at the same time." Amy felt her stomach drop. The Crix had the biggest weapons factories in the galaxy. If they fell, there would be no way to produce enough ships and guns to fight the swarm. "How long do they have?" Ryan asked. "Maybe a week," Katie said. "But here's the problem. Their factories are breaking down. Without human maintenance crews, their production is down 60%. They can't make enough weapons to defend themselves." Amy turned back to her computer and pulled up her old research files. For months, she had been developing theories about Void Swarm weaknesses. The aliens had called her work useless, but now it might be the only hope the galaxy had. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a chart on her screen. "The swarm feeds on energy. Every time someone shoots it with plasma weapons or laser cannons, it gets stronger. But there's something else. She pulled up another screen showing the swarm's biology. It can't process kinetic energy the same way. Simple physical weapons like bullets and missiles hurt it badly. And if you use cold iron with no electric charge, it can actually poison the swarm's growth. Ryan stared at the data. You mean the weapons the Council called primitive are the ones that actually work? Exactly. All their fancy energy weapons are just feeding the monster. Katie looked at both scientists. Have you told anyone about this? Amy laughed, but there was no humor in it. Who would we tell? The Council kicked us out. They're too proud to ask for help, and we're too far away to reach them in time anyway. Meanwhile, in the emergency bunker on the Galactic Council's capital world, panic was setting in. Thyman of the Goliath Empire stood before the remaining council members. His usual arrogance was gone, replaced by barely controlled fear. We need immediate reinforcement of the Kepler defense grid, he said. The Void Swarm is moving toward the inner systems. At their current speed, they'll reach Goliath space in 2 months. The Etherian representative, Zix Thera, floated nervously above her chair. What about supplies? How do we get weapons and ships to the defense grid? That was when the horrible truth became clear. Every major supply route to the outer rim had been run by human cargo pilots. The aliens had maps of the routes, but they didn't understand them. Space wasn't empty. It was full of cosmic storms, gravity wells, radiation fields, and a dozen other dangers that could destroy a ship. Human pilots had learned to navigate these dangers over decades of experience. They knew which routes were safe during solar flares. They knew how to read the signs of an incoming gravity storm. They knew where to hide when pirates were hunting. The aliens didn't know any of this. We've lost 12 supply convoys in the past week, reported the Vorthak military commander. The routes the humans used are too dangerous for our pilots. Then find new routes, Thyman demanded. We tried. The new routes take 3 times as long. By the time our supplies reach the defense grid, the swarm will already be there. As if to make things worse, more bad news kept coming in. The Etherian energy networks, which powered cities across dozens of worlds, were failing. Human technicians had maintained them for so long that no one else understood how they worked. The beautiful crystal cities that had been the pride of Etherian civilization were going dark one by one. The Vorthak food production systems were collapsing. Without human agricultural specialists, crop yields were dropping to dangerous levels. Billions of aliens were facing starvation just as they needed to feed the largest military force in galactic history. Back on Luna Base, Amy received an encrypted message from deep space. It was from Commander Sarah Wright, who was running reconnaissance missions in a stealth ship called Wanderer. Amy, you need to see this, the message said. I'm sending you real-time data from the Void Swarm's advance. It's not just consuming worlds randomly. It's learning. It's adapting its strategy based on each species it encounters. Amy opened the attached files and felt her blood turn cold. The swarm wasn't just a mindless plague. It was getting smarter. Every world it consumed taught it something new about galactic civilization. Every battle made it better at fighting the next one. Ryan, Katie, come look at this, she called. The swarm is heading for human space next. The 3 scientists stared at the tactical display. The Void Swarm's projected path would bring it to Earth's solar system within 6 months. At least we have time to prepare, Katie said. Amy shook her head. Look at the pattern. The swarm isn't just consuming worlds in order. It's targeting the most defended ones first. It wants to face the strongest opposition while it's still learning. Why would it do that? Ryan asked. Because it knows something we don't, Amy said quietly. It knows humans are different. It wants to study us before we have time to figure out how to stop it. Outside the laboratory windows, Earth cities sparkled in the darkness. 50 billion humans had come home in the past 6 months. The largest gathering of humanity in history was about to face the greatest threat the galaxy had ever seen, and they would face it alone, because the Galactic Council was too proud to ask for help, and too busy falling apart to offer any. Commander Sarah Wright floated in the zero gravity of her stealth ship, Wanderer. as she watched the Vorthak homeworld die. Through her ship's sensors, she could see the void swarm covering the planet like a black blanket. Where cities had stood, just hours before, there was now nothing but writhing darkness that pulsed with stolen energy. Recording final log entry for Vorthak Prime, she spoke into her communicator. Total consumption time, 4 hours, 17 minutes. The swarm has grown approximately 30% larger after feeding, moving to next target. Sarah had been watching this horror for weeks. Every world the swarm consumed made it stronger and smarter. The proud alien species that had dismissed humanity were being eaten one by one, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. Her communication system crackled to life. It was Admiral Carter back on Earth. Sarah, we're getting reports that the Galactic Council is trying to reach us. Something about an official apology. Sarah almost laughed. An apology? Their worlds are being destroyed and they want to apologize? It gets better. They're also asking for our help. Specifically, they want our research on void swarm countermeasures. The research they said was worthless? The same research. President, Morgan wants to know your opinion. Should we respond? Sarah looked at the dying world below her. Billions of Vorthak had lived there. They had been arrogant and cruel to humans, but they hadn't deserved this. No one deserved this. Tell the president I'll send my report in an hour, she said. But Admiral, you should know something. The swarm isn't heading for random targets anymore, it's coming straight for us. Back on Earth, President Alex Morgan sat in the Oval Office reading the most terrifying intelligence report he had ever seen. General Chris Davis, the architect of Earth's new defense strategy, stood beside his desk. The swarm will reach our outer colonies in 3 months, Davis said. Maybe less if it keeps growing at the current rate. Morgan looked up from the report. What about the alien request for help? They want everything. Our research, our tactical data, our supply routes. Basically, they want us to save them after spending years telling us we're too stupid to help. Morgan walked to the window. Outside, he could see the lights of Washington, D.C., and beyond that, the soft glow of orbital cities where billions of humans had built new lives. All of it could be gone in a few months. What does Dr. Johnson say about our chances? Better than the aliens' chances, but not good. The swarm learns from every battle. By the time it reaches us, it will have studied how to fight every weapon in the galaxy. Except ours. Davis nodded. Except ours. We've been developing weapons in isolation for 6 months. Things the swarm has never seen. On the other side of the galaxy, the Galactic Council was falling apart. The beautiful crystal chamber where they had dismissed humanity was now a cramped bunker deep underground. Half the council members were dead, their worlds consumed by the swarm. The survivors huddled around a communication console, waiting for humanity's response to their plea for help. Sixathera, the Etherian representative who had been most vocal about keeping humans in their place, stared at the message they had sent to Earth. It was not the kind of message the Council had ever sent before. To President Morgan and the human government, it read, The Galactic Council formally apologizes for our treatment of your species. We were wrong to dismiss your contributions and ignore your warnings. We humbly request your assistance in fighting the Void Swarm. We will accept any conditions you require. It was signed by every surviving council member. Do you think they will help us? Asked the Crix representative. 3 of the collective's 5 homeworlds were gone. The insectoid race that had once commanded millions of ships now had barely 100 vessels left. Why would they? Said Thymon of the Goliath Empire. His stone-like face showed shame for the first time in his life. We treated them like servants. We mocked their ideas. We told them they were too primitive to matter. The communication console finally chimed. A message from Earth had arrived. The message was short. We will consider your request. Stand by. Back on Earth, in a secure conference room beneath the Pentagon, humanity's leaders were making the hardest decision in their species' history. President Morgan sat at the head of a table surrounded by admirals, generals, scientists, and diplomats. The question is simple, Morgan said. Do we help them? Dr. Amy Johnson spoke first. From a tactical standpoint, we need them. The swarm grows stronger with every world it consumes. If we let the remaining alien worlds fall, the swarm will be unstoppable when it reaches us. General Davis disagreed. We've been preparing Earth's defenses for months. Our weapons are designed specifically to fight the swarm. We might be able to hold them off without alien help. And if we're wrong? Asked Admiral Carter. If our defenses fail, there's nowhere left to run. This is humanity's last stand either way. Katie Carter, who had been quiet during the meeting, finally spoke. There's something else to consider. If we help them, we do it on our terms. No more junior membership. No more being told to shut up and follow orders. If we save their civilization, we lead it. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what she was suggesting. Humanity wouldn't just be helping the aliens survive. They would be taking over. President. Morgan looked around the table. All in favor of helping the Galactic Council? Every hand went up. All in favor of doing it on our terms? Every hand stayed up. Morgan smiled grimly. Then let's save the galaxy. And let's make sure they remember who saved it. 3 hours later, the Galactic Council received humanity's response. It was longer than their request had been, but the important part was at the end. Humanity accepts the role of Supreme Military Commander for all anti-swarm operations. All alien forces will follow human command structure. All strategic decisions will be made by human leadership. All supply operations will be managed by human logistics. This is not negotiable. In their underground bunker, the surviving aliens read the message in silence. They were being offered salvation, but the price was their pride. Zixthara was the first to speak. They want complete control. Can we trust them with it? Asked the Crick's representative. Thyman answered. Can we afford not to? They were right about everything. The swarm, the weapons, the tactics, everything we ignored. One by one, the council members voted to accept humanity's terms. They had no choice. In trying to keep humans in their place, they had lost their own. The age of human leadership had begun, born from the ashes of alien arrogance and the necessity of survival. Captain Tony Blake stood on the bridge of the battleship Defiant as it moved through space toward the edge of the solar system. Around his ship, 1,000 other human vessels spread out in perfect formation. They moved like dancers who had practiced, together for years, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. Contact on sensors, reported his navigation officer, Lieutenant Kelly Park. Void swarm tendril approaching Proxima system. Size estimate, 50,000 individual units. Tony had fought pirates and raiders before, but nothing like this. Through the main screen, he could see the swarm approaching like a black cloud that ate starlight. It moved wrong, flowing through space in patterns that hurt to look at directly. All ships. This is Admiral Adams, came a voice over the communication system. Nancy Adams was commanding the entire human fleet from her flagship Liberty. Remember your training. Kinetic weapons only. Keep your energy signatures low. Make every shot count. Tony smiled. 6 months ago, the aliens had laughed at human weapons. Simple bullets and missiles, they had said. Primitive technology for a primitive species. Now those same weapons were the galaxy's only hope. Sir, said his weapons officer, Lieutenant Matt Davis, we're getting requests for coordination from alien survivors. 3 Crix ships and 1 Etherian vessel are asking to join our formation. Tell them to stay back and watch, Tony said. They'll only get in the way. But even as he said it, Tony felt something unexpected. Not anger at the aliens who had dismissed his people, but pity. The Crix ships looked damaged and desperate. The Etherian vessel was barely holding together. These were the survivors of races that had once commanded thousands of worlds. Actually, belay that order, Tony said. Tell them they can follow our lead, but they do exactly what we say. No arguing, no suggestions, no complaints. Yes, sir. The swarm was close enough now that Tony could see individual units. They looked like mechanical spiders the size of buildings, but they moved with organic grace. As they approached, some of them began to change shape, adapting to whatever threats they detected. Weapons range in 30 seconds, Matt reported. All ships, fire on my mark. Admiral Adams ordered. Tony watched the swarm surge forward. It had probably faced plasma cannons and laser weapons on a dozen worlds. It knew how to absorb energy attacks and turn them into fuel for growth. But it had never faced a wall of simple metal traveling at 30,000 miles per second. Mark, 1,000 human ships fired at once. Millions of tungsten slugs and titanium missiles streaked through space. The swarm's front ranks simply vanished, torn apart by impacts that no energy absorption could handle. The creatures behind them tried to adapt, growing thicker armor and changing their formations. It didn't help. Human weapons didn't give the swarm anything to learn from. There was no energy signature to copy, no complex technology to reverse engineer. Just physics, action and reaction. Mass times acceleration equals force. Direct hit on primary cluster, Kelly reported. Swarm cohesion is breaking down. But Tony wasn't watching the tactical display. He was watching the alien ships that had joined their formation. The Crix vessels were firing their plasma weapons at the swarm, just like they had been trained to do for centuries. The energy blasts were feeding the surviving swarm units, making them stronger. Alien vessels, cease fire immediately, Tony ordered. But we want to help, came the reply from the Crix ship commander. Then follow orders. Your weapons are making things worse. There was a long pause, then. Understood. Weapons offline. It was the first time in galactic history that an alien military commander had taken orders from a human without argument. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Void Swarm tendril was completely destroyed. Not a single human ship had been lost, though several had taken damage. The alien survivors sat in their ships watching human repair crews work with an efficiency that seemed impossible. Admiral Adams to all ships, came the announcement. Excellent work, everyone. Rescue teams are being dispatched to recover any swarm survivors for study. Medical teams are standing by to treat wounded from all species. Tony watched as human medics boarded the damaged alien vessels. They treated Crix soldiers and Etherian civilians with the same care they showed human crew members. No one asked about old insults or past dismissals. They just helped. Sir, Matt said quietly, why are we helping them? After everything they did to us? Tony thought about that for a moment. Because that's who we are. We help people, even people who don't deserve it. Meanwhile, in the restored Galactic Council chamber on Earth, Jake Morrison stood before the assembled representatives. The room was different now. Human-designed defensive systems protected it. Human logistics networks supplied it. And human protocols governed how meetings were run. The surviving alien species had learned something important during the past year. Strength wasn't about having the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. It was about the connections you built, the systems you maintained, and the people you chose to stand with when everything fell apart. The Void Swarm is contained but not eliminated, Jake reported. Our scientists believe we can eventually cure the infected worlds, but it will take years, maybe decades. Zixathera, the Etherian representative, raised her hand for permission to speak. Ambassador Morrison, what does humanity require from us during this time? Jake smiled. It was a real smile, not the forced diplomatic expression he had worn in this room years ago. What we've always required. Respect. Partnership. The understanding that we're all in this together. And if we fail to provide these things, asked the Crix representative, then you'll be on your own again, Jake said simply. And we've all seen how that worked out. The chamber fell silent. Every alien in the room remembered the terror of facing the swarm alone, the desperation of watching their worlds die while their own pride prevented them from asking for help. There will be no more junior memberships, Jake continued. No more species that are too primitive to have opinions. We're building a new galactic civilization, and everyone gets a voice, but everyone also gets responsibilities. President Morgan, who had been quietly observing from the back of the chamber, stepped forward. The age of human leadership has begun, but it's not leadership through force. It's leadership through example. We're not conquering you. We're showing you a better way. As the meeting ended and the representatives filed out, Jake remained behind. He looked around the chamber where humanity had once been dismissed and humiliated. Now it was the seat of a new kind of government, one based on cooperation instead of domination. Outside the windows, he could see the lights of New Geneva, the city that had grown up around the council chambers. Human and alien families walked the streets together. Children who had been born during the crisis played games that mixed human and alien traditions. They had all learned something important. The galaxy was too big and too dangerous for any one species to handle alone, but together, with respect and understanding, they could face anything. Even the dark spaces between the stars didn't seem so frightening anymore.